Last week, I delivered some training on how to have courageous conversations as a network leader. Now, the group was quite diverse. There were a lot of ERG, Employee Resource Group leaders, with actual management responsibility in their day-to-day role. Now, one reflection that a lot of the group shared was a bit of a shock to me, but also not surprising. So a lot of them admitted that they never really received proper training on how to actually have a difficult conversation. So I thought I'd use today's episode to share 3 of my experiences and reflections on this topic, because I find myself in a lot of conversations around difficult conversations. Number 1, you notice I said at the beginning that I deliver training on courageous conversations. So just by shifting the narrative from difficult conversation to courageous conversation, we're already allowing ourselves mentally to take some of the pressure off, because a difficult conversation is very anxiety inducing, right? It's not something any of us do on a day-to-day basis. I mean, how good are we at giving constructive feedback to our friends and family, let alone in the workplace? And me going into a difficult conversation kind of says, there's not going to be a win-win, right? One of us is going to lose. One of us is going to feel negative, defensive. Now, a courageous conversation, on the other hand, actually allows me to think of it like a potential win-win. It's a bit more brave as well, isn't it? Yes, I have to take some courage to go into the conversation, but literally by not even using the term difficult, I'm already reducing my anxiety. The second reflection around this topic is we really need to get better at feedback. All of us, as society, as workplaces. And we can help ourselves by implementing a couple of small changes. So firstly, let's move towards sharing an observation rather than feedback. And the term constructive feedback, now to me that's a lot of BS, right? I think there was a time when we thought saying constructive feedback makes it all better and makes people feel better about the concept, but it doesn't. So let's say we're sharing an observation. That alone helps. Secondly, let's tie that with a even better if approach. Here's an example. Oh, hey, Maike, it was really fantastic when you gave that presentation last week. Next time, it would be even better if you increase the font, because it was a little bit difficult to read, and I think it would just ensure that everybody in the room can read the presentation next time as you go through it. You see? So I'm kind of focused on a base, like a positive base. That makes me feel much more positive about it if I'm on the receiving end. Where if you're my manager and you say, Mike, I have some feedback to share with you, that's very different, isn't it? That's much more anxiety inducing. Now, another thing that I've noticed is that I heard the term feed forward more and more. I think let's just stick with feedback for now and get people on board with that. So when I say let's share an observation, it's not just about constructive feedback. It's also about positive stuff. We need to share more positive feedback in the workplace. Now, the third reflection around the topic of difficult conversation is the thinking we apply. Let's think about our intention here. Let's think about the impact. If I'm having to go into a difficult conversation, there is likely a positive outcome that I want. The difficult conversation might be around negative behavior I've seen from that person. Yes, the difficult conversation might be me as a line manager having to let the person know that consistently they did not deliver on a project, even though I tried to put in different help mechanisms. I'd want there to be a positive outcome, which either would be the negative behavior to stop and for the person to understand why they might have crossed a line, as an example, or I'd want the other person to succeed, to finally deliver the project to a standard that I need from them as their line manager. So immediately by changing my thinking here, not thinking, oh God, what am I going to say? Oof, I don't know. I'm actually thinking about the other person. I'm thinking about the bigger picture. Now, this is much easier if you have real clarity on your own objectives, on your team objectives. If we understand how my role really feeds into the bigger picture of the whole organization, the mission, the vision, the values. This is where we see a big discrepancy of what people, employees on the ground are experiencing on a day-to-day basis versus what the leadership thinks is going on. So let's recap. Firstly, we're shifting the narrative from difficult to courageous conversation. That helps us. Secondly, we are going to try to actually share an observation. We're going to try and apply the even better if model. And thirdly, let's rethink about the impact that we want to have. Let's remember the intention that we're having with this conversation. Thank you guys. See you next week.